Hello Tube Dwellers and welcome. I'm the Arcadean and this is Magic the Gathering lore. Also, check this thing out. Isn't that cool? I love this sort of thing. So today we're looking at the Guilds of Ravnica, new story, booster, set, expansion thing from Wizards of the Coast. There's a lot to get into here, but I've tried to condense it down, kind of a Cliff Notes version for people. So, let's take a look at the Guilds of Ravnica. I don't know why I said it like that. Just cue the thing. Magic the Gathering takes place in a multiverse. Now, comic book geeks will instantly know what that means, but for those of you who don't, it's basically different parallel universes called planes. A plane in Magic the Gathering can be an entire universe or a single self-contained world. Ravnica itself is the name of both the plane and the large city that occupies its main planet, which is a little confusing, but okay. Since we're talking about the guilds today, just assume that when I say Ravnica, I'm talking about the city. So, the guilds. The guilds are awesome and old. And when I say old, I mean old. We're talking 10,000 years and change here. See, way back, Ravnica used to be this incredibly brutal, violent place. Think Fist of the North Star, but, with fireballs. So into this warring hellscape steps Azor the First, who at this time is a planeswalking sphinx with a beard that just demands respect. He gathered together a council of 10 of the most powerful factions and basically pointed out that they were about one more fireball away from nuking their entire planet. Now these guys are important because they would become the first Parun, or Guildmasters of Ravnica. They were Azor the First, Razzia, Zadek, Zvogthir, Sisarzim, good grief, it's like an explosion in a Scrabble factory, Nifmizet, Obzedat, Rakdos, Matselesnia, and Simic. They said, okay, what's your plan? And he told them about the Guild Pact. Now the Guild Pact itself was genius, but it's a little odd, so let's break it down. First of all, it's a living enchantment, an ancient, primeval, living document signed with blood and magic by the parents, which is pretty metal. It has a few functions, but primarily it's used as the basis for all Ravnican law. It sets individual statutes and ordinances for each of the guilds so that each occupied a particular place and role within the city. This role had to be adhered to, and even the Parons themselves were not immune to the Guild Pact's magic. There's a lot more to it, of course, but if we started going into all the details and ramifications, we'd be here all week. So, let's move on to its destruction. Yes, all good things must come to an end, and the Guild Pact is no different, at least in its original form. Whilst it lasted a long time, the Guild Pact was eventually broken when the Parun of House Demir, Zadek, was arrested. Since the Guild Pact established the secrecy of House Demir, the arrest of its Parun created a loophole that unraveled the entire thing. Bye-bye to the living document. Later on, a high-ranking member of the Orzhov Syndicate called Teysa Karlov, who rocked the boob window despite being 112 years old, drafted a non-magical Guild Pact in an attempt to maintain order. But because it wasn't backed up by terrifying metaphysical forces, basically nobody took it seriously. So much for that. Eventually a magical Guild Pact was established, but this time it wasn't a document, it was a living person. Jace Beleren, to be specific, who you will undoubtedly recognize due to Wizards of the Coast putting his face everywhere. Called the Living Guild Pact, any law that he verbally confirms or formulates turns into a magical binding force very similar to the original Guild Pact. If that seems like a bad idea to you, then yeah, it probably is. But I think we've established pretty well that Ravnica is not that great at making good decisions. Incidentally, the shift in Guild Pact and passage of time didn't exactly leave the Parons untouched. Remember the list from earlier? Let's see how they're all doing, shall we? Azor the First, exiled to Useless Island. I'm not making this up, by the way. It's literally called Useless Island. I love Magic the Gathering.
Razzia, dead. Zadek, dead. Zvogthir, dead, but he's a necromancer, so that may not slow him down. Sisarzim, dead. Nifmizet, alive! Obzedat, dead, but they were always ghosts anyway, so no change there. Rakdos, comatose. Matselesnia, alive! Simic, no idea.
Weirdly, he's never actually mentioned. All we know is that he was a Vidalcan biomancer with the surname Simic. All in all, not a great track record for the Parents. The ones that are dead, exiled, or otherwise incommunicado have of course been replaced by various guildmasters over the years, and the guilds themselves have gone through various stages of dissolution, though they've always managed to revive themselves in the end. So the balance of power remains more or less stable. At least for now. Because, as with just about every other plane, the shadow of Nicol Bolas is stretching long over Ravnica. The final showdown approaches, and the guilds are tearing each other apart as the fight to oppose or to join with the Elder Dragon Planeswalker ramps up. Nobody knows how the conflict will end, and the cry goes up, stand with your guild.
But who will you stand with?